Are you sometimes annoyed by other cruisers? Or are you the one that others find annoying? Ahoy travelers, it's Amy here to help you make your travel experience a success. Now, I think that everyone wants to enjoy their vacation. I highly doubt that anyone sets out on a cruise planning to annoy and disrupt other cruisers. But if you have been on very many cruises, I am sure you've come across a few people that live by that motto, it's my vacation and I'll do what I want. Now, while I can understand that philosophy, that really only works if you're going off-grid for your vacation, maybe a cabin in the woods where you never see another person. And even vacationing with one other person means that you have to take that person into consideration. In the real world, a cruise is a vacation where you still need to adhere to societal norms, those often unspoken rules of society. So let's look at 8 things that make someone an annoying and rude cruiser. Number 1, being rude to the crew. While this one might not bother other cruisers, it is definitely something that needs to be on the list. Seeing someone talk down to or be rude to a crew member bothers me if I see it, but I get that it doesn't directly affect my cruise. I've seen people talk down to crew like they're either children or servants. They are neither. I think sometimes people treat crew members as lesser due to language issues. I've seen this happen. A cruiser will talk down to a crew member, slowing their speech and taking on a tone as if they're speaking to someone who has a learning disability. I almost guarantee that cruiser only speaks one language, English. I am constantly impressed by crew members who speak English as well as they do. Some speak multiple languages, and I think that deserves some respect. Sure, you may need to repeat yourself sometimes or rephrase a question or request, but that doesn't bother me at all. There are also cruisers out there who seem to think that crew members are their personal servants for the duration of the cruise. Yes, they are often there to serve cruisers, but a cruise ship is not this class system where cruisers are royalty and the crew are their slaves. And I think some cruisers need to remember that. Number 2, seat savers and chair hogs. Now, this is actually something that a lot of lines have actual written rules against, but since they're not often enforced, you're going to see this happen quite frequently. And this can happen just about anywhere on a ship, but it seems to be a bigger issue in places like the theater and then around the pool deck areas. On our last cruise, while relaxing in the Serenity area, I watched a lady ask her mother if she wanted the large lounger next to her, and her mother said no, she was sitting in the shade behind in a couch. The lady still put her bag on the lounger just in case and left it there all morning long. No one else could use it for several hours, probably 3 or 4 hours. Just an empty 2-person lounger in a crowded area that wasn't being used. The other thing you see happen is people who use their towels, maybe a book, to save a poolside lounger early in the morning, and they don't come back for hours. They get up really early, they save that spot, go back to bed, who knows what they're doing. And of course, there are the theater seat savers who will try to save a whole aisle of seats for the rest of their party who may or may not even show up. So how do you deal with this? Well, since saving seats is actually against most cruise line rules, you can ask a crew member to handle it. Let a crew member know if there's a lounger being saved for an extended period of time without someone in it. Carnival has said that they're going to actually address this more aggressively by putting stickers on loungers that say sharing is caring, and then have a space for crew members to write a time on them when the chair was found to be empty, and then a time when their stuff will be removed to the nearby towel hut for pickup, like 30-40 minutes. Since this is one of the biggest complaints from cruisers, any help from cruise lines will be seen as a positive. So what is the longest that you have ever saved a seat before coming back? Number 3, elevator etiquette. Elevators can be busy, crowded places, especially during certain peak times of the day. Rude people who rush elevators, they don't let others get out first, is just one thing that frustrates other cruisers when it comes to how people are and behave around the elevators. Not allowing others who were there and waiting already to grab the first elevator that shows up is another issue. This is especially bad when the person being ignored or cut off has mobility issues. Now, it would be great if there were dedicated places for people to wait in line, especially on public decks during peak times. Number 4, not supervising children. Mom and I actually have the luxury of cruising during off-peak times while most kids are still in school. But unless you book an adults-only line, you may come across kids running around without adult supervision. I think for some parents, they see cruise ships as a safe place to allow their kids to run around on their own. Where are they going to go? While that might be true, that doesn't mean that their kids won't still get into trouble or cause trouble. Even the best kids can get rowdy when they're in a group. Now, I don't think cruisers get annoyed by kids just having fun, but it's when they run through crowded areas, bumping into people, cutting in front of people, running up and down hallways, shouting, making noise, playing in the elevators. It's things like that that cause some tension. Parents need to go over proper behavior with their kids before letting them head off on their own, as well as having frequent check-ins with them to make sure they aren't being little hellions. Number 5, bad buffet etiquette. You are unlikely to find me in a buffet whether it's on land or on a cruise ship, and a lot of that is because of those who have bad buffet etiquette. Not washing your hands, jumping in line, touching food with their hands, not getting a fresh, clean plate when they go back for seconds or thirds. These are all things that are not only bad buffet etiquette, but most are also why illnesses like norovirus spread around a cruise ship. People who cut in line just to get one thing are annoying, sure. However, it's the cruisers who don't wash their hands before entering the buffet that can cause real issues, as they can contaminate all the serving utensils they touch. Even worse are those who use their hands to pick up items and then put them back. Like, grab a piece of bread, look at it. Does this bread have nuts in it? I don't like nuts in my bread. Put it back. You wouldn't think that would actually happen, but it does. And on the rare occasion I do go into the buffet to grab a bite to eat, I always wash my hands before heading in and then again after getting my food and before touching my silverware. Just a little tip. You wash your hands before going into the buffet for others, but you wash them after you leave for your own health and safety. Number 6, drunken behavior. Some of the most annoying cruisers are drunk cruisers. Now, whether they are just being too loud and obnoxious or they're actually causing fights, they can really affect other cruisers' ability to enjoy themselves. Have you ever seen any drunken fights on a cruise? I actually haven't, but I have been made uncomfortable in an elevator due to comments being made by men who'd had way too much to drink, as well as having my relaxation interrupted by loud drunks. Number 7, talking during shows. Whether it is a comedy show, the theater, or a movie on the Lido, nothing can bother other cruisers more than someone who doesn't respect the fact that everyone else is trying to listen to and enjoy a show. For the life of me, I cannot understand why people think this is okay. There are so many places that people can go on a ship where it's perfectly acceptable to have loud conversations, and where others are attempting to watch a performance is not one of them. I actually got called some nice names and had a few F-bombs thrown my way when I asked a group if they could please be quiet while trying to watch a movie on the Lido during our last cruise. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything, but after 30 minutes or more of this group talking and laughing while everyone around them kept tossing them looks, I just about snapped. Our final rude behavior is related to the one we just talked about, but before we get to it, if you enjoy this video and maybe even learn something, consider subscribing with the notification bell on so that you don't miss out on any future posts. So finally, number 8, being loud in shared spaces. This is probably one of my biggest pet peeves, period. And not just on cruise ships either. Stick with me because I'm not talking about all shared spaces, but some shared spaces are designed to be relaxing, relatively quiet spaces, at least during certain times of the day. Places like the atrium, seating around the coffee shops, or a space like Carnival's Serenity area usually have times when there just isn't anything planned by the cruise line, so cruisers use those areas as quiet spaces to read, play cards, or possibly even work on their laptops. There are maybe 20 people hanging around quietly, sipping their drinks, maybe having a quiet conversation with a friend or two, but no one's talking outside of their own little space. Then that one group shows up and just doesn't seem to care that everyone can hear everything they're saying because of how loud they are. They're speaking outside of their bubble. And sometimes I wonder if they want everyone to hear them. For some people, it just almost seems like a performance. Now, there are plenty of places on a ship where people can be loud, laugh, joke around, and they aren't going to disturb anybody. Personally, I would be embarrassed to walk into a room full of people who are obviously trying to find a quiet space and take it over by throwing my own little party. And people do this. Similarly are those people who refuse to use their headphones and instead listen to music on Bluetooth speakers, which is not only rude, but often against the rules of a cruise ship. Or they play games, watch videos, or even FaceTime someone without headphones. I had to listen to someone FaceTime a small child that was obviously being potty trained. How do I know this kid was being potty trained? I know because this person was talking to the kid about the kid going poop on the potty. We were on the Serenity deck and everyone else was being quiet, so everyone had to hear this loud FaceTime conversation. Shocker! It was the same lady who had saved an entire two-person lounger for hours without anyone using it. So obviously, not someone who cares about how their actions affect others. Now, while having the philosophy of, it's my vacation, I'll do what I want, may sound good, it isn't very realistic in the real world. Other people exist. It's their vacation too. So it's important to not be selfish and self-centered. If more cruisers would avoid these rude behaviors, then more people would be able to enjoy their cruises without getting annoyed at their fellow passengers. Because as much as we might like to think that we can just ignore people that annoy us, it really isn't that realistic. At least it isn't for me. I wish I could just ignore things like this, but these behaviors become like little mosquitoes just buzzing around my head. Could crew members do more to help take care of some of these issues? For sure. But except for security, it usually isn't really part of a crew member's job to address poor behavior from cruisers. I know I would hate to be the person who had to go and address some of these issues. And unless there is an actual rule in place to deal with an issue, like there is with saving loungers around the pool, I'm not exactly sure what a crew member could say except to just ask someone to stop that behavior and hope that they do. So which of these do you find to be the worst? Is it those who contaminate the buffet? Are you like a lot of people and you find chair hogs to be the worst? Or are you like me and just can't get past people who disrupt quiet spaces? Let me know in the comments. Well, are you ready for more information on cruising? Why not stick around and check out this video and then come back for more information designed to help you have an amazing cruise. Have a blessed week, everyone.